The winter wind cut through downtown Nashville like a blade, carrying with it the promise of snow. It was December 18th, and the city sparkled with Christmas lights strung across Broadway, their warm glow reflecting off the frost-covered windows of honky-tonk bars and tourist shops. But 3 miles south, in the Riverside Meadows trailer park, the holiday spirit felt like a distant dream. Dylan Carter pulled his threadbare jacket tighter as he walked along the cracked sidewalk. At 12 years old, he had learned to ignore the cold that seeped through the holes in his sneakers and the hunger that gnawed at his stomach. His dark brown hair, too long and disheveled, fell into his eyes as he kept his gaze fixed on the pavement. He had 47 cents in his pocket, 2 quarters, a dime, a nickel, and 2 pennies. Not enough for a meal, but maybe enough to show he wasn't asking for charity. The trailer he shared with his grandmother, Patricia Carter, sat at the edge of the park. Its white paint had long since peeled away, revealing patches of rust underneath. A blue tarp covered a section of the roof where leaks had become unbearable during last spring's storms. Inside, his grandmother was resting. At 68, Patricia had worked as a seamstress for 40 years before arthritis had crippled her hands. Now, they survived on her modest Social Security check of $900 a month. Dylan had spent the afternoon doing odd jobs around the neighborhood. He'd raked leaves for Mrs. Helen Kowalski, who lived 4 trailers down, earning $5. He'd helped Mr. James Peterson carry groceries from his car, receiving $2 and a grateful smile. Every dollar mattered. Every cent was calculated against their needs. Rent, utilities, his grandmother's medications. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Dylan found himself on Woodland Street, 3 blocks from home. His stomach rumbled. They'd had oatmeal for breakfast and split a can of soup for lunch. His grandmother had insisted he take the larger portion, as she always did. Dinner would likely be rice, with whatever canned vegetables remained in their small pantry. That's when he saw it. Anderson's Bakery, a small family-owned shop wedged between a laundromat and a check-cashing store. The warm light from inside spilled onto the sidewalk, and through the large front window, Dylan could see display cases filled with cakes, pastries, and fresh bread. His mouth watered involuntarily. He knew the routine. Bakeries often threw away unsold items at closing time. It was 5:47 p.m., 13 minutes before 6. If he timed it right, if he asked politely, maybe they'd give him something they were going to discard anyway. It wasn't begging, he told himself. It was preventing waste. Dylan pushed open the door, and a small bell chimed. The scent of vanilla, cinnamon, and fresh-baked bread enveloped him. Behind the counter stood a woman in her mid-30s, with kind brown eyes and blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. Her name tag read, Jennifer Caldwell. "Hi there, sweetheart," Jennifer said, her voice carrying the warm drawl of Tennessee. "We're about to close, but what can I get for you?" Dylan approached the counter slowly, his hands buried in his jacket pockets. He could feel the coins there, a meager offering. Hi ma'am, I was wondering, do you have anything you're going to throw away? Like maybe bread or cake that's expired? I can pay a little." He pulled out his handful of change and placed it on the counter. The coins clinked against the glass surface. Jennifer's expression softened immediately. She'd seen plenty in her years working at the bakery. Nashville attracted dreamers and strugglers in equal measure. But something about this boy's quiet dignity touched her heart. He wasn't demanding. He wasn't making up stories. He was simply asking, with whatever small amount he had. "Oh, honey," she said gently, "you keep your money. Let me see what we have back here." She disappeared into the back room. Dylan stood there, his heart pounding. Through the window, He watched people hurry past, bundled in heavy coats, carrying shopping bags filled with gifts. A couple laughed as they entered the coffee shop next door. A businessman talked loudly on his phone, complaining about holiday traffic. Jennifer returned carrying a white bakery box. This birthday cake was ordered for a party today, but the customer never picked it up. It's perfectly good. Made it fresh this morning. Vanilla cake with buttercream frosting. You're actually doing me a favor by taking it, so I don't have to log it as waste. She opened the box briefly to show him. The cake was beautiful. 2 layers, covered in smooth white frosting with blue and yellow decorative flowers piped around the edges. "Happy Birthday" was written in elegant script across the top. Dylan stared at it, momentarily speechless. I can't. That's too much, ma'am." "Nonsense. Take it. Share it with your family." Jennifer closed the box and tied it with string. "And honey, you come back anytime we're closing. I'll make sure you get something good, all right?" "Thank you," Dylan whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much, ma'am." He was reaching for the box when the bell chimed again. 3 people entered the bakery. A tall man in a black leather jacket, a woman with a clipboard, and another woman wearing oversized sunglasses, a cream-colored winter coat, and a burgundy scarf wrapped elegantly around her neck. Despite the casual appearance, there was something unmistakably commanding about her presence. Dylan stepped aside to let them pass, clutching his backpack. The woman with sunglasses pulled them off, and Dylan's breath caught. Even at 12, even living in a trailer park on the outskirts of Nashville, he knew that face. His grandmother played her music constantly. Old CDs she'd collected over the years, back when she could still afford small luxuries. Reba McEntire stood less than 5 feet away from him. "Evening, Jennifer," the tall man said. "I called ahead. Order for McEntire?" "Yes, sir, Mr. Brennan. Got it right here." Jennifer pulled out another box from beneath the counter. 2 dozen assorted cookies, just like you requested. Reba had moved to browse the nearly empty display case, but her attention was drawn to the scene she'd just witnessed. She'd seen the boy place his coins on the counter, heard Jennifer's kind words, and watched the exchange of the cake box. Now she turned, her famous green eyes studying Dylan with genuine interest. "That's a nice-looking cake you've got there," she said, her voice warm and friendly. Dylan felt his face flush. "Yes, ma'am. It was going to be thrown away." "Well, I'm glad Jennifer here made sure you got it instead." Reba smiled, and it transformed her face from merely beautiful to absolutely radiant. "What's your name, honey?" "Dylan, ma'am. Dylan Carter." "It's nice to meet you, Dylan. I'm Reba." "I know who you are, ma'am." Dylan's voice was barely above a whisper. "My grandma. She loves your music. She plays fancy all the time. And consider me gone. She says you sing about real life, about things that matter." Reba's smile grew wider. "Well, your grandma sounds like she's got excellent taste. And you're doing your Christmas shopping a little early, huh? Getting a cake for the family?" Dylan hesitated. He didn't want to lie, but he also didn't want to burden this stranger, celebrity or not, with his problems. "It's just me and my grandma, ma'am. She hasn't been feeling well, and I thought maybe something sweet would cheer her up." There was something in the way he said it, a weight behind the simple words, that made Reba pause. She'd been in the entertainment business for over 40 years. She'd met thousands of people, heard countless stories, and developed an instinct for recognizing genuine struggle beneath polite words. "Just you and your grandma?" she asked gently. Dylan nodded. "Yes, ma'am. We live over in Riverside Meadows, the trailer park off Jefferson Pike." Reba knew the area. She'd grown up in Oklahoma, in modest circumstances herself, before her music career had taken off. She understood what it meant when a child talked about trailer parks and seemed grateful for expired cake. "And your parents?" she asked, then immediately regretted the question when she saw Dylan's expression falter. "My mom passed away 2 years ago," he said quietly. "Car accident on I-40. And my dad, he left after that. Haven't heard from him since." The bakery went quiet. Even the tall man, Trevor Brennan, Reba's tour manager, had stopped checking his phone. Jennifer stood behind the counter with her hand over her heart. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," Reba said, and the sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. "That's a heavy burden for anyone, especially someone your age." Dylan shrugged, trying to appear stronger than he felt. "My grandma, she takes good care of me. We're doing okay." But Reba could see the holes in his shoes. The jacket that was at least 2 sizes too small. The way his jeans were frayed at the bottom. She could see the tiredness in his young eyes. The premature maturity that came from shouldering adult worries. "Trevor," she said, turning to her tour manager, "we've got about 30 minutes before we need to be at the venue, right?" Trevor checked his watch. "Closer to 25 now, but yes." "Good." Reba looked back at Dylan. "Honey, do you have time to sit and talk with me for a few minutes? I'd like to know more about you and your grandma. And Jennifer, would it be too much trouble to make us some hot chocolate? It's freezing out there." Jennifer beamed. "Not at all. I'll make a fresh pot." Dylan looked uncertain. I don't want to be any trouble, ma'am. And my grandma, she's expecting me back. How about we give her a call?" Reba pulled out her phone. "Let her know you're safe, and you'll be home shortly." "What's the number?" 5 minutes later, after a brief, somewhat surreal conversation in which Patricia Carter had nearly dropped the phone upon realizing who was calling, Dylan found himself sitting at one of the small tables in the bakery with Reba McEntire. The woman with the clipboard, Angela Foster, Reba's personal assistant, had stepped outside to make some calls. Trevor stood by the window, giving them privacy but remaining vigilant. Jennifer brought 2 steaming mugs of hot chocolate, topped with whipped cream. "On the house," she insisted, refusing Reba's attempt to pay. "So, Dylan," Reba began, wrapping her hands around the warm mug, "tell me about your grandma." "What's her name?" "Patricia. Patricia Carter. Everyone calls her Patty." Dylan took a sip of the hot chocolate, and the warmth spread through him like a blessing. He couldn't remember the last time he'd had something this good. "She's 68. She used to be a seamstress, made clothes for people, wedding dresses and suits and stuff. But her hands got bad with arthritis, so she can't do it anymore. That must have been hard for her, losing the work she loved. Yeah, she tries not to show it, but I know she misses it. She'll see someone's outfit and comment on the stitching, or how she would have done the hem differently. She taught me a little bit about sewing, actually. Just basic stuff, like how to fix a button or patch a hole." Reba smiled. "Those are good skills to have. My mama taught me similar things. We didn't have much when I was growing up, so we had to make things last." Dylan looked at her with surprise. "Really? But you're famous?" Reba finished with a gentle laugh. "Honey, I grew up on a ranch in Oklahoma. We raised cattle, and there were plenty of times we struggled. My daddy worked as a steer roper in rodeos to make extra money. We all had to pitch in. I understand what it's like to worry about making ends meet." This revelation seemed to ease something in Dylan. He took another sip of hot chocolate before continuing. "Grandma's not doing so well right now. She tries to hide it, but I can tell. She gets tired really easy, and sometimes she can't catch her breath. I keep telling her she should see a doctor, but she says we can't afford it. We already spend so much on her arthritis medication." "Does she have insurance?" "Just Medicare, and it doesn't cover everything." We have to choose sometimes between getting all her prescriptions filled or paying other bills. Dylan stared into his mug. Last month, the heater broke. It cost $300 to fix. We didn't have it. So I started doing extra jobs around the neighborhood. Took me 3 weeks to save up enough. Reba felt her heart constrict. This child, this 12-year-old boy, was carrying the weight of an adult's responsibilities. What kind of jobs do you do? Raking leaves, shoveling snow, carrying groceries, walking dogs, washing cars, whatever people need. Most folks are nice about it. They pay me a few dollars, sometimes give me food. Mrs. Kowalski, she lets me use her computer sometimes to do homework since we don't have internet. And school? How's that going? Dylan's expression darkened. It's okay. Just okay? He hesitated, then seemed to decide that if he was going to talk to anyone about this, it might as well be someone he'd probably never see again. The kids at school, they can be mean sometimes. They make fun of my clothes, call me trailer trash. There's this group of boys, led by this kid named Brett Morrison. They're always messing with me, knocking my books out of my hands, tripping me in the hallway, posting stuff about me online. Bullying, Reba said, her voice hardening. I try to ignore it. My grandma says people who hurt others are usually hurting inside themselves. But it's hard. And the school, they don't really do anything about it. Brett's dad is some big lawyer, so Brett gets away with everything. Have you told your teachers? The principal? I tried. They said they'd look into it, but nothing changed. After a while, I just stopped reporting it. I figured it was easier to just keep my head down and get through the day. Reba was quiet for a moment, and Dylan worried he'd said too much. But when she spoke, her voice was filled with determination. Dylan, I want you to listen to me carefully. What those kids are doing is not okay. What the school is allowing to continue is not okay. And you are working so hard, being so strong for your grandmother, doing everything right. You deserve better than this. It's just the way things are, ma'am. No, it's the way things have been. But things can change. Reba pulled out her phone and opened her notes app. I'm in Nashville for a few days doing some shows and meeting with my record label. But I want to stay in touch with you. Can I get your phone number or your address? Dylan recited the information, and Reba typed it carefully. We don't have a cell phone, he explained. Just a landline in the trailer. Sometimes it gets shut off if we can't pay the bill, but we just got it turned back on last week. Okay. And your grandma's full name is Patricia Carter? Any middle name? Louise. Patricia Louise Carter. Reba made notes of everything. When she looked up, there was a fire in her eyes that Dylan couldn't quite interpret. I need to get to my show now, but Dylan, I promise you, this conversation isn't over. I'm going to think about how best I can help you and your grandma. Is that okay with you? You don't have to help us, ma'am. You've already been so kind, just talking to me like this. Maybe I don't have to, but I want to. Sometimes God puts people in our path for a reason. Maybe I was supposed to stop at this bakery today. Maybe I was supposed to meet you. She stood, and Dylan quickly got to his feet as well, clutching his cake box. Reba reached into her purse and pulled out several $20 bills. Here, this is for you and your grandma. Get some groceries or whatever you need most. Dylan stared at the money, $120, with wide eyes. Ma'am, I can't. Yes, you can. Please. It would make me happy knowing you two have a little extra this week. When Dylan still hesitated, she pressed the bills into his hand. Take it, and take this too. She handed him a business card with a phone number on it. That's my assistant Angela's number. If you or your grandma need anything, and I mean anything, you call that number. Okay? Okay, Dylan whispered. his eyes filling with tears he was too proud to let fall. Reba pulled him into a hug, and for a moment, Dylan allowed himself to be just a 12-year-old boy who desperately needed comfort. When they separated, Reba touched his cheek gently. "You're going to be all right, sweetheart. I promise. Stay strong for your grandma. Keep being the good person you are. And remember, you are not alone." Trevor collected the cookie order, and the group prepared to leave. At the door, Reba turned back. "Dylan, make sure your grandma sees that doctor, soon. Even if you think you can't afford it. Sometimes clinics have programs that can help. Will you promise me you'll look into it?" "I promise, ma'am." "And Jennifer?" Reba addressed the baker. "Thank you for your kindness. The world needs more people like you." Jennifer waved, tears streaming down her face. "Come back anytime, all of you." After they left, Dylan stood in the bakery for a long moment, looking at the money in his hand and the business card. Jennifer came around the counter and put a hand on his shoulder. "That was quite a conversation, wasn't it?" "Yeah," Dylan said softly. Do you think she meant it? About helping?" Jennifer smiled. "Honey, I've lived in Nashville my whole life. I've met a lot of famous people who come through here. Most of them are nice enough, but they're just passing through. But Reba McEntire? She's different. She's the real deal. If she said she'd help, she will." Dylan carefully placed the money in his jacket pocket, picked up his cake box, and headed home as the first snowflakes began to fall. The walk back to Riverside Meadows seemed shorter somehow, warmer despite the cold. He kept touching the business card in his pocket, making sure it was still there. When he opened the trailer door, Patricia was sitting in her recliner, an oxygen tank beside her that Dylan hadn't seen before. His heart sank. She was deteriorating faster than he'd realized. "Grandma, when did you get that oxygen?" Patricia's face was pale, but she smiled. "Dr. Williams from the free clinic stopped by yesterday. He's been worried about me. Loaned me this tank to help with my breathing." She saw the cake box, and her eyes lit up. "Is that what you went to get?" Dylan set the box on their small dinette table and opened it. "It's a birthday cake. The bakery was going to throw it away." "Oh, honey, that's beautiful. And you met Reba McEntire? I still can't believe that was really her on the phone." "It was really her, Grandma. And she was so nice. She asked about you, about us. And look," he pulled out the money. "She gave us this, for groceries and bills." Patricia's hand flew to her mouth. "Dylan, that's over $100. 120. And she gave me her assistant's number. Said if we need anything to call." He moved to kneel beside his grandmother's chair. "Grandma, you need to see a real doctor, not just the free clinic. She made me promise I'd make sure you got proper help. Sweetheart, we can't afford. Then we'll figure it out. Maybe there are programs. Maybe Ms. McEntire can help us find resources. But you have to try, okay? I can't lose you too. You're all I have left." Patricia cupped his face in her gnarled hands. "And you're all I have, my sweet boy. Okay, we'll figure something out together." They cut into the cake, and for the first time in months, they had dessert. As they ate in the warm glow of their small space heater, Dylan told his grandmother every detail of his encounter with Reba McEntire. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the shabby trailer park in a blanket of white, making everything look clean and new and full of possibility. That night, lying in his narrow bed with 2 blankets pulled up to his chin, Dylan looked at the business card one more time before placing it carefully in his drawer. He didn't know what would happen next, but for the first time since his mother had died, he felt something he'd almost forgotten: hope. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Brett Morrison would still be at school. The bills would still need paying. His grandmother would still struggle to breathe. But tonight, Dylan Carter fell asleep believing that maybe, just maybe, things could get better. And 3 miles away, in a luxury hotel suite downtown, Reba McEntire sat with her laptop open, researching healthcare programs, scholarship opportunities, and every possible resource available in Davidson County, Tennessee, for families in crisis. The morning after the bakery encounter dawned cold and bright. Dylan woke to the sound of his grandmother's labored breathing from the other room. He lay still for a moment, staring at the water-stained ceiling of his bedroom, barely larger than a closet, before the urgency of the new day pulled him from bed. Their morning routine was well established. Dylan helped Patricia from her bed to the bathroom, then to the small kitchen area where he prepared their breakfast. Oatmeal with a sprinkle of cinnamon and whatever fruit they could afford. Today, thanks to Reba's money, he'd added sliced bananas he'd bought the night before from the corner store. "This is delicious, honey," Patricia said, though Dylan noticed she only ate half of her portion. The oxygen tank sat beside her, the plastic tubing looped around her ears and under her nose. "You're getting to be quite the cook." "It's just oatmeal, Grandma." But he smiled. Small victories mattered. At 7:15 a.m., Dylan caught the school bus at the entrance to the trailer park. The December air bit at his exposed skin, and he pulled his inadequate jacket tighter. On the bus, he took his usual seat near the front, away from Brett Morrison and his crew who claimed the back rows. Riverside Middle School was a sprawling brick building that served over 800 students. Built in the 1970s, it showed its age in peeling paint and flickering fluorescent lights. Dylan navigated the crowded hallways to his locker, keeping his head down, trying to be invisible. "Hey, Carter!" The voice made his shoulders tense. Brett Morrison approached with his 2 constant companions, Tyler Jennings and Cody Hughes. All 3 wore expensive athletic jackets and pristine sneakers. "Nice jacket. Did you get that from the dumpster?" Tyler laughed on cue. "Nah, man. Goodwill. Definitely Goodwill." Dylan focused on opening his locker, refusing to engage. "What's the matter? Too poor to talk?" Brett knocked the books from Dylan's hands, sending them scattering across the hallway floor. Other students walked past, averting their eyes, grateful they weren't the target. "Leave him alone, Brett." The voice belonged to Kayla Richardson, a girl from Dylan's math class. She was tall for her age, with dark curly hair pulled back in a ponytail, and a confidence that seemed unshakable. "Don't you have anything better to do? This doesn't concern you, Richardson." "Actually, it does. Mrs. Chen is looking for you. Something about your English paper being plagiarized." It was a lie, but Kayla delivered it with such conviction that Brett hesitated. "Whatever. Come on, guys." Brett and his friends moved down the hallway, but not before Brett shoulder-checked Dylan, sending him stumbling. Kayla helped Dylan gather his books. "You okay?" "Yeah, thanks. You know you should report him, right? What he does is not okay." Dylan shrugged, taking his books from her. "I've tried. Nobody does anything." "Then try harder. Document it. Record it if you can. People like Brett only get away with what we let them get away with." Kayla studied him for a moment. "Look, I know we don't really know each other, but if you ever need someone to back you up, I will, okay?" "Why would you do that?" "Because it's the right thing to do." She smiled. "Plus, I hate bullies. My older brother was bullied all through middle school. I know what it's like." The bell rang, and they headed to their respective classes. Dylan spent the morning in a fog of exhaustion, struggling to concentrate. His mind kept drifting to his grandmother, to the oxygen tank, to the encounter with Reba McEntire that felt increasingly like a dream. At lunch, he sat alone at a corner table with his homemade sandwich, peanut butter on bargain bread. Around him, students laughed and chatted, living normal teenage lives that felt worlds away from his reality. He was halfway through his lunch when his phone vibrated. Not his phone, he didn't have one, but the ancient cell phone his grandmother kept for emergencies, which he'd borrowed that morning. The screen showed an unknown Nashville number. Hello? Hi, Dylan. This is Angela Foster, Reba McEntire's assistant. We met briefly yesterday at the bakery. Dylan's heart rate accelerated. Yes, ma'am, I remember. Excellent. Listen, I'm calling because Reba asked me to reach out. She's been thinking about you and your grandmother quite a bit, and she'd like to meet with you both, if possible. Would you and Patricia be available this Saturday around 2 o'clock? I think so. Where? We'll come to you. Reba prefers to meet people in their environment. It helps her understand the full picture. Would it be all right if we visited your home? The thought of Reba McEntire seeing their cramped trailer, with its leaky roof and worn furniture, made Dylan's stomach clench, but he also knew refusing would be foolish. Yes, ma'am. That would be fine. Perfect. I have your address from yesterday. We'll see you Saturday at 2. And Dylan, don't worry about cleaning up or anything like that. Reba just wants to talk, okay? After the call ended, Dylan sat staring at the phone. Around him, the cafeteria chaos continued, but he felt suspended in a bubble of disbelief. This was really happening. You look like you've seen a ghost. Kayla slid into the seat across from him. Everything okay? Dylan hesitated, then figured there was no harm in sharing. I met Reba McEntire yesterday, the country singer. Shut up. Really? Really? And she's coming to my house on Saturday. Her and her assistant. Kayla's eyes widened. Dylan Carter, you're full of surprises. How did that happen? He told her the story. The bakery, the cake, the conversation. Kayla listened intently, her expression growing more serious as he described his home situation. I didn't know things were that hard for you, she said quietly when he finished. I mean, I knew Brett was giving you trouble, but the rest, I don't really talk about it. What's the point? The point is that people might help if they knew. I might help. Why? Dylan asked again. You barely know me. Because that's what decent humans do. We help each other. Kayla pulled out her own phone. My dad's a doctor at Vanderbilt Medical Center. Let me text him about your grandma. Maybe he can recommend some programs or resources. You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. She was already typing. What's wrong with her exactly? She has really bad arthritis, but lately she's been having trouble breathing. She's using an oxygen tank now. Kayla's expression grew concerned. That could be serious. COPD, maybe, or heart problems. She really needs to see someone. Over the next few days, Dylan's life took on a surreal quality. True to her word, Kayla's father, Dr. Nathan Richardson, called that evening. He spent 20 minutes on the phone with Patricia, asking detailed questions about her symptoms and medical history. By the end of the conversation, he'd arranged for her to see a pulmonologist colleague of his at a significantly reduced rate. Dr. Michelson normally charges $400 for a consultation, Patricia told Dylan after the call, her voice trembling with emotion. Dr. Richardson negotiated it down to $50 and said we can do a payment plan if even that's too much. Thursday brought another surprise. Dylan came home from school to find a package on their doorstep. Inside were 2 heavy winter coats, one that would fit him perfectly and one in his grandmother's size, along with warm gloves, scarves, and a note. Dylan and Patricia. Thought you might need these with winter coming on. Stay warm. Reba Patricia cried when she tried on the coat. It was the first new piece of clothing she'd owned in 5 years. Dylan's coat was navy blue with a sturdy zipper and a hood lined with soft fleece. That night, he hung it carefully in his tiny closet. Running his hands over the fabric, still unable to quite believe it was his. Friday afternoon, Mrs. Helen Kowalski knocked on their door. The 73-year-old widow had lived in the trailer park longer than anyone else. "Dylan, honey, I need some help if you have time. My daughter sent me a new smart TV for Christmas, and I can't figure out how to set it up. Could you come over? I'll pay you $20 and feed you dinner." Dylan looked to his grandmother, who nodded. "Go ahead, sweetheart. I'm just going to rest here." Mrs. Kowalski's trailer was cluttered but clean, filled with photographs of her late husband and 3 adult children. While Dylan worked on connecting the TV, she made them pot roast with potatoes and carrots. "So I hear you met Reba McEntire," she said, setting a plate in front of him. The smell made his mouth water. News traveled fast in trailer parks. Dylan explained the encounter while eating what felt like the best meal he'd had in years. "That woman's got a good heart," Mrs. Kowalski said. "My daughter loves her music. Says Reba's the real deal. Came from nothing and never forgot where she came from." She paused, watching Dylan eat with an appetite he couldn't hide. "Honey, I want you to know something. I see how hard you work. I see how you take care of your grandma. And I want to help however I can. You already help, Mrs. Kowalski. You give me jobs, and I'm not done." She pulled an envelope from her apron pocket. "My late husband had a life insurance policy. Not huge, but enough that I'm comfortable. My kids are all doing well. They don't need my money. So I've been thinking about how I could make a real difference right here in my community." She handed him the envelope. Inside was a check for $500. "Mrs. Kowalski, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. Use it for your grandma's medical bills. Use it for groceries. Use it for whatever you need. Consider it an early Christmas present." Dylan felt tears sting his eyes. In 1 week, he'd experienced more kindness than he'd known in 2 years. "I don't know how to thank you." "You just did, honey. Now finish your dinner. I made apple pie for dessert." Saturday arrived with clear skies and temperatures in the mid-30s. Dylan and Patricia had spent Friday evening cleaning their trailer as best they could. The space was still small and worn, but at least it was tidy. At 1:55 p.m., a black SUV pulled up outside their trailer. Dylan's stomach did a nervous flip. Through the window, he watched Reba emerge, wearing jeans, boots, and a casual sweater, looking like any other person rather than a multi-platinum recording artist. Angela Foster was with her, along with another woman Dylan didn't recognize. All 3 approached the trailer, and Dylan opened the door before they could knock. "Hi, Dylan." Reba's smile was warm and genuine. "Thanks for having us. Is your grandma here?" "Yes, ma'am. Please, come in." Patricia had positioned herself in her recliner, oxygen tank at her side, dressed in her best outfit. A floral blouse and khaki pants that Dylan had carefully ironed that morning. When Reba entered, Patricia struggled to stand. "Oh no, please don't get up." Reba crossed the small space quickly and gently pressed Patricia back into her chair. "Mrs. Carter, such a pleasure to meet you. Dylan told me so much about you. Ms. McEntire, I can't believe you're actually here. I've been a fan for 40 years. Your music has gotten me through so many hard times. Please call me Reba, and I'm honored to hear that." She settled onto the couch across from Patricia, while Angela and the other woman remained standing near the door. "This is Angela, my assistant, and this is Dr. Linda Morrison, a friend of mine who specializes in geriatric and pulmonary medicine. I hope you don't mind, but I asked her to come along." Dr. Morrison stepped forward with a professional smile. "Mrs. Carter, I was hoping I might examine you, if you're comfortable with that. Just a basic assessment to see what we're dealing with. Would that be all right?" Patricia looked overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. This is all so much. Just say yes, Grandma, Dylan urged softly. Please. While Dr. Morrison conducted her examination in the trailer's small bedroom, Reba talked with Dylan. Angela had pulled out a notepad and was taking quiet notes. So, Dylan, tell me about school. You mentioned some bullying issues? Dylan glanced toward the bedroom where his grandmother couldn't hear. It's gotten worse this week, actually. This kid, Brett Morrison, and his friends. They never let up. Morrison? Reba's eyebrow raised. Any relation to Dr. Morrison? I don't think so. This kid's dad is a lawyer. Chase Morrison. Angela made a note. The law firm Morrison, Wade, and Associates? I think so, yeah. Big firm. Lots of money and influence. Angela looked at Reba. That might explain why the school isn't addressing it. Reba's expression hardened. We'll see about that. Dylan, I want you to start documenting everything. Write down dates, times, what happened, who witnessed it. Get video if you can, safely. Can you do that? I guess so, but no buts. What's happening to you is illegal. It's harassment, possibly assault, depending on what they've done. Schools are required by federal law to address bullying. If they're not doing their job, we'll make sure they do. Dr. Morrison emerged from the bedroom 20 minutes later, her expression serious. She gestured for Reba to join her outside, and the two women stepped onto the small porch. Through the window, Dylan watched them talk in low voices. When they returned, Reba's face was set with determination. Mrs. Carter, Dr. Morrison began gently, you have what's called COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's serious, but manageable with proper treatment. You're also showing signs of congestive heart failure, which is why you're having such difficulty breathing. Patricia's hand went to her throat. Am I dying? Not if we treat it properly. You need to be on medication. Bronchodilators, steroids, possibly diuretics for the heart failure. You need regular monitoring. And honestly, you should be admitted to the hospital for a few days to stabilize your condition. I can't afford. You don't have to. Reba leaned forward. Patricia, I'd like to help. I have the resources, and I want to use them to make sure you get the care you need. Will you let me do that? Patricia shook her head, tears streaming down her face. I can't let you pay for my medical care. That's too much. You don't even know us. Maybe not yet, but I'd like to. And here's the thing. I believe we cross paths with people for a reason. I think I was supposed to meet Dylan in that bakery. I think I'm supposed to help you both. Reba's voice was gentle but firm. I grew up without much, Patricia. My family struggled. I know what it's like to need help and be too proud to ask for it. But sometimes, accepting help is the bravest thing you can do. What she said, Dylan added, moving to kneel beside his grandmother's chair. Please, Grandma, let them help. I can't lose you. The room fell silent except for the soft hiss of the oxygen tank. Finally, Patricia nodded. Okay. Yes, thank you. The next hour was a whirlwind of activity. Dr. Morrison made phone calls, arranging for Patricia to be admitted to Vanderbilt Medical Center the following morning. Angela coordinated logistics, including arranging for a medical transport service to take Patricia to the hospital. Dylan will need somewhere to stay while you're hospitalized, Angela noted. Do you have family nearby? No, Patricia said. We don't have anyone. He could stay at the hospital with me, Patricia began, but Dr. Morrison shook her head. He needs to be in school, and you need to focus on getting better. The doctor thought for a moment. What about foster care temporarily? No. Dylan's voice was sharp. I'm not going into the system. I'll be fine here by myself. Honey, you're 12 years old, Reba said gently. You can't stay alone. I've stayed alone before. I can take care of myself. Angela and Reba exchanged glances. Finally, Reba spoke. What if you stayed with someone we trust? Someone nearby who could make sure you're safe and getting to school? Like who? Let me make some calls. By the time they left, 3 hours later, arrangements had been made. Mrs. Kowalski had agreed to let Dylan stay in her spare bedroom while Patricia was hospitalized. Dr. Richardson had called again, offering to waive his consultation fees entirely. And Reba had left an envelope on the kitchen table containing $2,000 in cash. That's for whatever you need, she'd said firmly when Patricia tried to refuse. Medical expenses, bills, food, anything. No arguments. After they left, Dylan and Patricia sat in stunned silence. I don't understand why she's doing this, Patricia finally said. We're nobody to her. Maybe that's exactly why, Dylan replied. Because she can, and nobody else will. That night, as Dylan lay in his bed for the last time before his grandmother's hospitalization, he thought about the strange turn his life had taken. 1 week ago, he'd been alone, struggling, invisible. Now he had Reba McEntire fighting in his corner, a new friend in Kayla Richardson, and more support than he'd known since his mother died. But as he drifted off to sleep, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered a warning. Things this good didn't last. Life had taught him that. Sooner or later, something would go wrong. He pushed the thought away and focused instead on hope. Vanderbilt Medical Center rose into the Nashville skyline like a promise of healing. On Sunday morning, Dylan stood in the lobby with Mrs. Kowalski, watching as his grandmother was wheeled toward the cardiac care unit on the 7th floor. She's going to be fine, honey, Mrs. Kowalski assured him, patting his shoulder. This is the best hospital in Tennessee. They'll take good care of her. Dr. Morrison had arranged everything. Patricia had a private room, courtesy of an anonymous donor that Dylan suspected was Reba, and a team of specialists who immediately began aggressive treatment. Intravenous medications to strengthen her heart function, breathing treatments to open her airways. Round-the-clock monitoring. Dylan visited for 2 hours before Mrs. Kowalski insisted they leave so Patricia could rest. You need to focus on school tomorrow, his grandmother had said, her voice stronger already after just 1 day of treatment. Promise me you'll go. I promise. Living with Mrs. Kowalski proved easier than Dylan had expected. Her spare bedroom was small but comfortable, with a real bed, not a makeshift mattress on the floor, and clean sheets that smelled like lavender. She made him breakfast every morning: eggs, toast, and orange juice. For the first time in years, Dylan wasn't starting his day hungry. But Monday morning brought a return to reality at Riverside Middle School. Dylan had barely opened his locker when Brett Morrison appeared with his crew. Well, Carter's back. We missed you, buddy. Brett's tone dripped with false friendliness. Hey, I heard your grandma's in the hospital. That's too bad. Maybe now she won't have to live in that pathetic trailer anymore. Something inside Dylan snapped. He'd endured 2 years of this. He'd stayed silent, kept his head down, been the perfect victim. But Reba's words echoed in his mind. What's happening to you is illegal. Leave me alone, Brett. Or what? You gonna cry? You gonna run to the principal like a little snitch? Actually, that's exactly what he's going to do. Kayla Richardson appeared, phone in hand, camera pointed directly at Brett. Say that again, Morrison. Say it for the camera. Brett's face flushed red. Are you recording me? Started recording the moment you approached. Got everything, including your comment about Dylan's grandmother. Kayla's smile was steel. Pretty sure mocking someone's sick relative qualifies as harassment under the school's anti-bullying policy. Want to bet what Principal Warren will think? You can't record me without my permission. Actually, in Tennessee, one-party consent is legal. I only need my own permission. And this is a public space in a public school, so you have no expectation of privacy. Kayla's knowledge was precise and confident. Surprised? My mom's a lawyer. I know the law. Tyler and Cody had already backed away, suddenly very interested in something down the hallway. Brett stood alone, his bravado crumbling. "This isn't over," he muttered, turning to leave. "Oh, I think it is," Kayla called after him. "Unless you want this video to go to the principal, the school board, and social media. Your choice." After Brett disappeared, Dylan stared at Kayla in amazement. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. I told you I'd back you up." She showed him her phone, where the video was indeed saved. "I'm going to email this to myself, you, and Principal Warren. It's time this school actually did something about bullies." By lunchtime, Dylan had been called to Principal Warren's office. Alan Warren was a tired-looking man in his late 50s who seemed perpetually overwhelmed by the chaos of middle school administration. "Dylan, I received a video from Kayla Richardson. I've watched it several times." He paused, studying Dylan carefully. "This has been going on for a while, hasn't it?" "Yes, sir. Since 6th grade." "And you've reported it before?" "3 times last year. Nothing changed." Principal Warren sighed deeply. "I'm going to be honest with you, Dylan. We should have done more. We didn't, and that's on us. Brett Morrison's behavior has been excused too many times because..." He stopped himself. "Well, it doesn't matter why. It ends now." "What does that mean?" "It means Brett is being suspended for 1 week, starting tomorrow. When he returns, he'll be in the after-school detention program for a month. If there are any more incidents, and I mean any, he'll be expelled." Principal Warren leaned forward. "And Dylan, I want you to know that you can come to me directly from now on. If Brett or anyone else bothers you, I will handle it personally." Dylan left the office feeling like he'd crossed into an alternate universe. Brett Morrison suspended? Actual consequences? It seemed impossible. But when Brett didn't show up to school on Tuesday, Dylan knew it was real. "Word's already spread," Kayla told him at lunch. "Brett's furious. Tyler said he's been ranting about you all weekend." "Great. Now he'll really hate me." "Let him. He can't touch you anymore. Not without risking expulsion." That afternoon, Dylan received a text from Angela Foster. "Reba would like to meet with you and your grandmother tomorrow evening at the hospital if Patricia is feeling up to it. 6 p.m. Work for you?" Dylan confirmed, his curiosity piqued. What more could Reba possibly want to discuss? Wednesday evening, Dylan arrived at Vanderbilt Medical Center to find his grandmother looking remarkably improved. Color had returned to her face, and she was sitting up without the oxygen cannula. "They're amazed at how well I'm responding to treatment," Patricia told him, her voice filled with wonder. "Dr. Patel, he's one of my cardiologists, said with proper medication and monitoring, I could have years of good quality life ahead of me." "That's wonderful, Grandma." "It's a miracle. That's what it is. And it wouldn't have happened without Reba's help." At 6:00 p.m. sharp, Reba arrived with Angela and another man Dylan hadn't met. A tall African-American man in his 40s, wearing an expensive suit. "Dylan, Patricia, this is Marcus," Reba began, then stopped, laughing at herself. "Sorry, this is James Wellington. He's an attorney and a good friend of mine. I asked him to come because I wanted to discuss some things with both of you, and I thought legal counsel might be helpful." James shook their hands warmly. "Pleased to meet you both. And please, don't be nervous. I'm here as a friend, not in an adversarial capacity." They all found places to sit, Reba and Angela in chairs beside Patricia's bed, James leaning against the windowsill, and Dylan perched on the edge of the bed. "So," Reba began, "I've been doing a lot of thinking since we met. About your situation, about what you need, and about how I can best help. I don't want to just throw money at the problem. Though Lord knows you need financial help, I want to create lasting change. Does that make sense? I think so, Patricia said carefully. Good. So here's what I'm proposing, and I want you both to think carefully before answering. First, medical care. Patricia, Dr. Morrison has agreed to be your primary physician going forward. She's reducing her fee to what Medicare will cover, so it won't cost you anything out of pocket. She'll coordinate all your care and make sure you have the medications you need. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I don't have words. Second, housing. Your current trailer has significant problems. The roof leaks, the heater barely works, and frankly, it's not safe for someone with your health conditions. James has been researching low-income housing options in Davidson County. There's a subsidized apartment complex called Meadowbrook Gardens, about 2 miles from your current location. 2-bedroom units, modern, well-maintained. There's a waiting list, but... She glanced at James. But I have some connections with the property management company, James continued. I believe I can expedite your application and get you moved in by early January. Dylan's mouth fell open. A real apartment? With functioning heat, no leaks, and even a small balcony, James confirmed. The rent is based on income, so you'd pay roughly what you're paying now, maybe a little less. Third, Reba continued, education. Dylan, you're a smart kid. Your grades are mostly B's and A's despite everything you're dealing with, but you're going to need help preparing for high school and eventually college. Angela has been researching tutoring programs and after-school resources. Angela pulled out a folder. There's a free program at the Nashville Public Library called Future Ready. It provides tutoring, college prep, and even help with scholarship applications. I've already contacted them, and they'd love to work with you. And fourth, Reba said, her voice becoming firmer, we need to address the bullying situation permanently. James, the attorney straightened. Dylan, I've reviewed the video that your friend Kayla took, and I've done some research on the school's handling or mishandling of your previous complaints. What I found concerns me greatly. The school has a federal obligation under Title IX and various anti-bullying statutes to provide you with a safe learning environment. They've failed to do that. They suspended Brett, Dylan said. Isn't that enough? It's a start, but suspension isn't enough. I want to make sure this doesn't happen again, to you or any other student. James pulled out his own folder. With your permission, I'd like to send a formal letter to the school district outlining the history of harassment you've experienced and the school's inadequate response. I want to put them on notice that we're watching and that any future incidents will result in legal action. I can't afford a lawyer. You're not paying me, Dylan. I'm doing this pro bono because it's the right thing to do, and because Reba asked me to. James smiled. Consider it my contribution to making sure kids like you get justice. Dylan looked at his grandmother, who nodded encouragingly. Okay. Yes. Please do that. Excellent. Reba leaned back in her chair. Now, there's one more thing, and this is the big one. Patricia, I know you're recovering well, but the reality is you won't be working for a while. You need to focus on your health. That means Dylan needs stability, someone to look after him, make sure he's eating well, getting to school, having a normal childhood as much as possible. I can take care of myself, Dylan protested. I know you can, honey. You've proven that, but you shouldn't have to. Reba's gaze was steady and kind. What if I arranged for some in-home support? Someone who could help with cooking, cleaning, making sure your grandmother doesn't overexert herself during recovery. Would that be acceptable? Patricia dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. You've already done so much. Too much. I don't know how we'll ever repay you." "You don't need to repay me. That's not how kindness works." Reba reached over and took Patricia's hand. "My mama used to say that when you're blessed, you're supposed to be a blessing to others. I've been very blessed in my life. Let me share that with you." The room fell silent, except for the soft beeping of medical monitors. Finally, Patricia nodded. "Okay. Yes, all of it. Thank you doesn't seem like enough, but thank you." Over the next hour, they discussed logistics. James explained the apartment application process. Angela outlined the tutoring program schedule. Dr. Morrison called to check on Patricia's progress and adjust her medication regimen. As the meeting wrapped up, Reba pulled Dylan aside. "How are you holding up with all this? It's a lot of change." "I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. I just keep waiting for something to go wrong." "Why would something go wrong?" "Because it always does. Good things don't last. Not for people like me." Reba's expression softened with understanding. "Dylan, I get it. You've been through trauma. Losing your mom, your dad leaving, struggling to survive. It makes sense that you'd expect the worst. But sometimes, good things do happen. Sometimes, life turns around. You just have to let yourself believe it's possible." "How?" "One day at a time. Focus on today. Today, your grandma is getting better. Today, you have a safe place to stay. Today, that bully at school is suspended. Those are real, tangible good things. Tomorrow will have its own challenges, but tomorrow will also have its own blessings." That night, back at Mrs. Kowalski's trailer, Dylan lay in bed thinking about everything that had happened. In just over a week, his entire life had transformed. It felt surreal, like a movie rather than real life. His phone buzzed. Mrs. Kowalski had loaned him her old smartphone so he could stay in contact. It was a text from Kayla. "My dad said your grandma's doing great. Told you everything would work out. See you tomorrow?" Dylan typed back, "Yeah, thanks for everything." That's what friends do. Friends? The word stuck with him. He had a friend. When was the last time he'd had that? Thursday brought more changes. During lunch, Principal Warren made a school-wide announcement over the intercom about the school's anti-bullying policy. He didn't mention Dylan or Brett by name, but everyone knew what or who had prompted it. Effective immediately, we're implementing a zero-tolerance policy for harassment and bullying. Warren's voice crackled through the speakers. Any student found engaging in such behavior will face immediate suspension and possible expulsion. We're also establishing an anonymous reporting system. If you witness bullying, you can report it online without fear of retaliation. Kayla grinned at Dylan across their lunch table. "You did that. You changed the whole school's policy." "We did that," Dylan corrected. "I couldn't have done it without you." Friday afternoon, Dylan received news that his grandmother would be discharged on Sunday. The improvement in just 1 week was remarkable. She'd be on medication indefinitely and would need regular monitoring. But she was stable. And the apartment application went through, Angela texted him. "You can move in January 4th. Start the new year in a new home." That evening, Reba invited Dylan to attend her concert at the Bridgestone Arena. Mrs. Kowalski drove him downtown, insisting on accompanying him. "I'm not missing a chance to see Reba McEntire live," she declared. "I've been a fan since 1986. They had VIP seats, 5th row, center. The arena was packed with 18,000 people, all there to see the woman who had changed Dylan's life. When Reba took the stage in a glittering outfit, the crowd erupted. She sang her classics. Fancy, The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, Consider Me Gone. Her voice was powerful and emotive, filling the massive space. Between songs, she told stories, joked with the audience, and created an intimate atmosphere despite the venue's size. Then, about halfway through the show, she paused. "I want to tell y'all about something that happened to me recently," she said, her voice echoing through the arena. "I met a young man who reminded me why I do what I do, why I sing about real life, about struggle, about overcoming adversity." Dylan's heart began to race. This young man, he's 12 years old. He's been through more hardship than most adults face in a lifetime. He lost his mama, his daddy left, and he's been taking care of his sick grandmother while dealing with bullies at school and poverty and all kinds of challenges. But you know what? He never gave up. He kept going to school, kept taking care of his grandma, kept being kind and polite and hopeful. The arena had gone quiet, everyone listening. I met him in a bakery. He was asking if they had any expired cake he could take home. Not because he was greedy or ungrateful, but because he was hungry and he couldn't afford anything else. And something about that moment, about his dignity, his quiet strength, it touched my heart. Reba looked directly at where Dylan was sitting. The spotlight swung to illuminate him, and suddenly 18,000 people were looking his way. He wanted to sink into his seat, but Mrs. Kowalski squeezed his hand encouragingly. "Dylan Carter, would you stand up, honey?" Reluctantly, Dylan stood. The arena erupted in applause. This young man represents something I believe in deeply, that kindness matters, that we're supposed to help each other, and that everyone deserves a fair shot at a good life. So Dylan, this next song is for you and your grandma. She launched into "You Lift Me Up," a song about finding strength in difficult times. Dylan stood there, tears streaming down his face, as the entire arena sang along. When the song ended, the applause was deafening. After the concert, Angela brought Dylan and Mrs. Kowalski backstage. Reba was still in her performance outfit, makeup slightly smudged, but her smile was radiant. "You did great out there, kid," she said, pulling him into a hug. "I know it was uncomfortable being in the spotlight, but I wanted people to understand why this matters, why helping others matters. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just keep being who you are. Keep working hard, taking care of your grandma, and believing in yourself." She handed him a small box. "This is for you. Open it later." That night, back in Mrs. Kowalski's spare room, Dylan opened the box. Inside was a letter and a bank card. The letter read, "Dylan, I've set up a trust fund in your name with $50,000. It's for your education. High school expenses, college tuition, books, whatever you need to build a future. You can't access it until you're 18, except for approved educational expenses. James Wellington is the trustee, and he'll make sure it's used properly. I believe in you. I believe you're going to do great things with your life. This is my investment in that future." With love and respect, Reba Dylan read the letter 3 times, unable to process the numbers. $50,000. For his education, for his future. He thought about his mother, who had always insisted he stay in school even when money was tight. She'd believed education was the key to a better life. Now, thanks to a chance encounter in a bakery, that belief might actually become reality. Sunday morning, Patricia was discharged from the hospital. She looked 20 years younger than she had 2 weeks ago. Her color was good, her breathing was clear, and she moved with energy Dylan hadn't seen in months. "They're calling it a miracle recovery," she told him as they rode home in the medical transport van Reba had arranged. "But I know the truth. It's love. It's kindness. It's people caring when they didn't have to." The trailer felt different when they returned. Knowing they'd be leaving it soon changed how Dylan saw the cramped space. It wasn't home anymore. It was just a temporary stop on the way to something better. That afternoon, Kayla texted, "Want to come to my house tomorrow after school? My parents want to meet you. Plus, we're doing homework together. Final exams next week." Dylan hesitated. Meeting parents was nerve-wracking. But Kayla had been such a good friend, standing up for him when no one else would. "Sure. What time?" "3:30. I'll give you the address." "Don't worry, my parents are nice. Plus, my mom makes amazing chocolate chip cookies." Monday at school felt different. Students who had previously ignored Dylan now nodded at him in the hallways. A few even stopped to ask how his grandmother was doing. The anonymous impact of being recognized at Reba's concert had elevated his status from invisible to visible. Brett Morrison remained suspended, and his friends had distanced themselves from him. Without their leader, Tyler and Cody were just ordinary kids who suddenly wanted nothing to do with bullying. After school, Dylan caught the bus to Kayla's neighborhood, a middle-class area with neat houses and well-maintained lawns. The Richardson home was a 2-story brick house with a 2-car garage and a basketball hoop in the driveway. Kayla answered the door. "Come in. Fair warning, my parents might embarrass me, my little brother is annoying, and my dog will probably try to lick you to death." She wasn't wrong about the dog. A golden retriever named Cooper, who immediately jumped on Dylan with enthusiastic affection. "Cooper! Down!" A woman who looked like an older version of Kayla appeared. "Sorry about that. I'm Rachel Richardson, Kayla's mom. And you must be Dylan." "Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me." "Oh, we're glad you're here. Kayla talks about you constantly. Come in, come in." Dr. Nathan Richardson emerged from his home office. A tall man with graying hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Dylan, good to finally meet you in person. Your grandmother is doing wonderfully, by the way. Dr. Michelson gave me an update. He's very pleased with her progress. Thank you, sir, for everything you did to help her." "That's what we do. We help people. No thanks necessary." The afternoon was surprisingly normal and wonderful. Dylan and Kayla worked on their math homework at the kitchen table while Rachel made cookies. Kayla's younger brother, Mason, a precocious 9-year-old, told terrible jokes and showed Dylan his Pokemon card collection. Cooper napped at Dylan's feet. It was the kind of ordinary, mundane family scene that Dylan hadn't experienced in years, and it felt like coming home. As they worked through algebra problems, Rachel brought over warm cookies and milk. "So Dylan, Kayla tells me you're moving to a new apartment soon." "Yes, ma'am. Early January." "That's exciting. New beginnings for the new year." She paused. "You know, if you ever need anything, someone to talk to, a ride somewhere, help with anything, you can call us. We're here for you." "Thank you, ma'am." After Dylan left that evening, Rachel turned to her husband. "That is one resilient kid." Nathan nodded. "He's been through hell and somehow came out the other side with his humanity intact. That's rare." "I'm glad Kayla befriended him," Rachel said. "I think they're good for each other." The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Dylan took his final exams and passed everything, even getting an A in English, his best subject. Patricia continued her recovery, growing stronger each day. The apartment at Meadowbrook Gardens was approved, and they began the process of preparing to move. On Christmas Eve, Reba invited them to her home in Nashville, a beautiful estate in an exclusive neighborhood. Patricia was nervous about imposing, but Reba had insisted. "I celebrate with my family every year," she'd said. "This year, your family." The evening was magical. Reba's actual family was there: her mother, her sister, her son, and his family. The house was decorated beautifully, with a massive tree in the living room and lights twinkling everywhere. They had dinner: turkey, ham, all the traditional sides. and then exchanged gifts. Reba gave Patricia a beautiful shawl and Dylan a brand new laptop for school. "You're going to need this for your education," she explained. "It's got all the software you'll need for high school and beyond." Dylan had brought modest gifts purchased with money he'd earned from odd jobs. A CD of classic country songs for Reba, and a framed photo of them together at the bakery that Jennifer Caldwell had taken and given him. "I love it," Reba said, her eyes misting. "This is going on my wall of memories." As the evening wound down and they prepared to leave, Reba pulled Dylan aside one more time. "I want you to know something. This isn't just charity, and it's not just me feeling sorry for you. I genuinely believe you're special, Dylan. You have strength, character, and potential. The world needs people like you, people who've been through hard times but haven't let it make them hard. You're going to do great things. I know it." "I hope so, ma'am. I don't want to let you down." "You couldn't let me down if you tried. Just be yourself. That's more than enough." New Year's Eve arrived, and with it came the move to Meadowbrook Gardens. The apartment was on the 3rd floor, with 2 bedrooms, a full bathroom, a combined living room and kitchen, and, yes, a small balcony overlooking a courtyard. Patricia cried when she saw it. "It's beautiful. It's so clean and new." Mrs. Kowalski had organized neighbors from the trailer park to help move their few belongings. Even Mr. Peterson came, despite his bad back, carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs. "You're good people," he told Dylan. "Deserve good things." That night, Dylan stood on the balcony, looking at the Nashville skyline in the distance. Somewhere out there was the Bridgestone Arena, where Reba had dedicated a song to him. Somewhere out there was Riverside Middle School, where he'd been bullied, but had finally stood up for himself. Somewhere out there was that bakery where everything had changed. "Dylan? Come inside, honey. It's freezing." Patricia called from inside. He took one more breath of cold winter air, then went inside to their new home. January brought renewal. The new year, the new apartment, and a new chapter in their lives. Dylan started the spring semester at Riverside Middle School with a different energy. He walked taller, made eye contact, and no longer tried to be invisible. Brett Morrison had returned from suspension, but he was a changed person, or at least a quieter one. James Wellington's letter to the school district had resulted in real consequences. Brett was in counseling, his parents had been called in for multiple meetings, and he was on probation. One more incident would mean expulsion and possible legal action. The first time they passed in the hallway, Brett looked away. No insult, no shoulder check, just avoidance. Dylan took it as a victory. "He's scared of you now," Kayla observed as they walked to lunch. Word is, his dad read him the riot act after that lawyer's letter. Turns out, Chase Morrison doesn't like bad publicity, and having his son exposed as a bully wasn't good for the family image. "I don't want him to be scared. I just want him to leave me alone." Well, you got your wish. February brought a surprise visitor to Meadowbrook Gardens. Dylan came home from school on Valentine's Day to find Reba's black SUV in the parking lot. "Ms. McEntire is here?" he asked Patricia, who was preparing dinner in their actual, functioning kitchen. "In the living room, honey. She wanted to talk to us about something." Reba sat on their new second-hand couch. Angela had helped them find furniture at an estate sale, looking casual in jeans and a sweater. "Hey, Dylan! How's school going?" "Good. Really good, actually." He set down his backpack. "What brings you here?" "I have a proposition for both of you." Reba gestured for them to sit. "As you know, I'm going on tour this summer, 3 months across the country. And I'm looking for someone to help with fan outreach, particularly with younger audiences and social media. Angela's great, but she's focused on the logistics side. I need someone who can connect with fans on a personal level, tell stories, share the human side of the tour. That sounds amazing, Patricia said. Who did you have in mind? You, Patricia. The room went silent. Me? But I don't know anything about social media or tours or... You don't need to. I have people who handle the technical stuff. What I need is someone with your heart, your perspective, your ability to connect with people. You could travel with us. We have an RV for crew members, and you document the tour through photos, videos, and stories. Think of it as being our tour historian. But I'm 68 years old. So, I'm 69. Age is just a number. Reba leaned forward. Patricia, you told me you used to love creating things, sewing, crafting, making beauty. This is another form of that. And honestly, I think it would be good for you. Travel, new experiences, purpose beyond just recovering from illness. What about Dylan? That's the other part of my proposition. Reba turned to Dylan. I know you'll be finishing 7th grade and starting 8th grade in the fall. I don't want to disrupt that. So I talked to Dr. Richardson and his family has offered to let you stay with them during the 3 months your grandma is on tour. Would you be okay with that? Dylan's mind raced. Living with the Richardsons? His grandmother traveling the country with Reba McEntire? It seemed impossible. I don't want to burden the Richardsons. You wouldn't be a burden, Reba assured him. Rachel said they have the space, and Kayla's excited about it. Plus, it's only 3 months. Your grandma would be back by late August, right before school starts. Patricia looked at Dylan. What do you think, honey? I think... Dylan paused, choosing his words carefully. I think if it's something you want to do, Grandma, you should do it. You've spent 2 years taking care of me. Maybe it's time you did something for yourself. But? No buts. Ms. McEntire is right. This could be amazing for you. And I'll be fine with the Richardsons. Kayla and I are already together all the time anyway. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? I'm sure. 2 weeks later, it was official. Patricia would join Reba's tour from June 1st through August 28th. Dylan would stay with the Richardson family during that time. In preparation, Patricia began learning the basics of smartphone photography and video editing from Angela. You're a natural, Angela declared after their 3rd session. You have a good eye for composition. Meanwhile, Dylan's life continued to improve. His grades climbed from mostly B's to straight A's. The tutoring program at the library helped him develop better study skills and organizational strategies. He joined the school's creative writing club and discovered a talent for storytelling. In March, James Wellington returned with an update on the school situation. The district has implemented new training for all staff on recognizing and addressing bullying, he told Dylan and Patricia during a meeting at their apartment. They've also hired a dedicated counselor who specializes in conflict resolution. And they've asked if you'd be willing to speak to the school board about your experience. Me? Speak to the school board? You don't have to if you're not comfortable. But I think your story could help create real change. Not just at Riverside Middle, but across the district. Dylan thought about all the other kids who might be suffering like he had. Kids who felt invisible, helpless, trapped. I'll do it, he said. The school board meeting was held on March 15th at the district administration building. The conference room was packed with board members, school administrators, parents, and media. Dylan sat at a table with a microphone in front of him, his prepared statement trembling slightly in his hands. My name is Dylan Carter, he began, his voice small at first, but growing stronger. I'm 12 years old, and I'm here to tell you what it's like to be bullied at school while the adults who are supposed to protect you do nothing. For the next 10 minutes, he laid it all out. The verbal harassment, the physical intimidation, the isolation, the times he reported it, and nothing changed. The feeling of being worthless because the people in authority treated his suffering as unimportant. "I'm one of the lucky ones," he concluded. "I had someone step in and help me. But there are other kids right now, in schools across this district, who are suffering, who feel invisible, who think no one cares. I'm asking you, begging you, to care, to create real policies with real enforcement, to train your teachers and principals to recognize bullying and stop it, to make your schools safe for everyone, not just the popular kids or the rich kids or the kids whose parents have lawyers." When he finished, the room was silent. Then one board member began clapping, and soon the entire room erupted in applause. The next day, Dylan's speech was featured in The Tennessean. Within a week, the school district announced a comprehensive anti-bullying initiative with real funding and accountability measures. "You did that," Kayla told him. "You changed the whole district." April brought warmer weather and spring break. Reba invited Dylan, Patricia, and the Richardson family to her ranch in Oklahoma for a week. "I want you to see where I grew up," she explained. "I think you'll understand a lot more about me once you do." The ranch was beautiful. Rolling hills, cattle grazing, wide open spaces. But Reba's childhood home was modest. A small farmhouse with worn furniture and family photos covering every wall. "We lived here with very little money," Reba told them as they toured the house. 8,000 acres. But we were land rich and cash poor. Some years, we barely scraped by. But we had each other. We had purpose, and we had hope. She showed them the room she'd shared with her sister, the tiny kitchen where her mother had cooked for the family, the barn where she'd practiced singing while doing chores. "I tell people this all the time, but I don't know if they really understand. I'm not special because I'm famous. Fame is just circumstance. What's special is the human spirit, the ability to endure hardship and still find joy, still find purpose, still help others." That evening, they sat on the porch watching the sunset, paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Dr. Richardson and Reba talked about medical care for rural communities. Rachel and Patricia discussed the tour logistics. Kayla, Dylan, and Mason played with the ranch dogs. "This is nice," Dylan said to Kayla. "Just normal." "Yeah, sometimes normal is the best thing in the world." May brought the end of the school year and Dylan's 13th birthday. The Richardson family threw him a party. His first real birthday celebration since his mother had died. There was a cake, presents, and friends from school including Kayla, 2 kids from the Creative Writing Club, and even Tyler Jennings, who had apologized to Dylan for his role in the bullying. "I should have stood up to Brett," Tyler said. "I was a coward, and I'm sorry." "It's okay," Dylan replied. And he meant it. Holding on to anger served no purpose. "We're good." Reba sent a video message that played at the party. "Happy birthday, Dylan. 13 is a big year. You're officially a teenager. I'm so proud of the young man you're becoming. Can't wait to see what the future holds for you. Enjoy your day." The semester ended with Dylan's final report card. All A's. He'd made honor roll for the first time in his life. "Your mother would be so proud," Patricia told him, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so proud. I couldn't have done it without you, Grandma. Without you taking care of me all this time. We took care of each other, honey. That's what family does." June 1st arrived with bittersweet emotions. Patricia was excited about the tour, but nervous about leaving Dylan. Dylan was confident in his decision, but would miss his grandmother. "It's only 3 months," Rachel assured them, as they gathered in the Richardsons' driveway where the tour bus would pick up Patricia. "And you can video call every day." When the bus arrived, a massive RV with Reba's logo on the side, Angela emerged with a smile. "Ready for your adventure, Patricia." "As ready as I'll ever be." Patricia hugged Dylan tightly. "You be good for the Richardsons. Study hard. Make good choices. And know that I love you more than anything in this world." "I love you too, Grandma. Have an amazing time." As the bus pulled away, Dylan felt Rachel's hand on his shoulder. "Come on, let's go home and get you settled in your room." The Richardsons' guest room became Dylan's space for the summer. It was larger than his room at the apartment, with a real desk for homework and a bookshelf that Kayla had helped him fill with books from the library's used book sale. That first evening, the family had dinner together. Grilled chicken, salad, and Rachel's famous potato casserole. "So, Dylan," Nathan said, "we have some house rules we need to discuss. Nothing major, just expectations while you're staying with us." Dylan tensed, waiting for the list of restrictions. "First, you're part of this family for the summer. That means you eat with us, you participate in family activities, and you contribute to chores. We're not doing you a favor. You're our guest and our friend." "Second," Rachel continued, "be yourself. We don't expect perfection. We expect honesty, effort, and respect. If you mess up, and everyone messes up, just own it and learn from it." "Third," Kayla added with a grin, "you have to help me teach Cooper new tricks. He's getting lazy." Mason piped up, "And you have to listen to my jokes even if they're bad." "I can do all that," Dylan said, relief flooding through him. The summer unfolded like a dream. Dylan attended a creative writing workshop at the local library where he wrote short stories and even started a novel about a boy surviving difficult circumstances. He helped Nathan in the yard, learning about plants and landscaping. He cooked with Rachel, who taught him how to make everything from spaghetti to chicken curry. He and Kayla spent hours at the community pool, at the movies, or just hanging out. And every evening at 7 p.m., Dylan video called his grandmother. Patricia was thriving on tour. The RV was comfortable. The crew was kind, and Reba treated her like a valued team member. Patricia's photos and videos were being posted on Reba's official social media accounts, where fans loved the behind-the-scenes perspective. "Look at this." Patricia showed him a photo of Reba signing autographs after a show in Dallas. 20,000 people attended. "Dylan, I never imagined I'd experience something like this." "You deserve it, Grandma. We deserve it. All of this, the apartment, my health, these opportunities. It started because you had the courage to walk into that bakery and ask for help. Never forget that." In mid-July, Dylan traveled with the Richardson family to St. Louis to attend one of Reba's concerts and visit Patricia. The reunion was joyful. Patricia looked younger and more vibrant than Dylan had ever seen her. "The tour life agrees with you," Rachel observed. "It's given me purpose again," Patricia admitted. "I forgot what that felt like." The concert was incredible, and afterward, Reba spent time with all of them. "Dylan, your grandma has been telling me about your writing," she said. "I'd love to read some of it someday. It's not very good. Let me be the judge of that. Every artist doubts themselves. That's part of the process. But you have stories to tell, experiences that matter. Don't hide them." August arrived too quickly. Patricia returned home on August 28th, 2 days before school started. Dylan moved back to their apartment at Meadowbrook Gardens, and while he was happy to be home, he missed the Richardson household. "You're welcome anytime," Rachel told him. "Seriously, our door is always open." The first day of 8th grade brought new challenges and opportunities. Dylan was elected to student council. He started a peer mentoring program where older students helped younger ones navigate school challenges. He continued writing, submitting stories to youth literary magazines. And Brett Morrison? He transferred to a private school across town. Dylan heard through the grapevine that Chase Morrison had decided his son needed a fresh start. Dylan didn't particularly care. Brett was no longer his problem. September brought an unexpected invitation. Reba was being honored at the Country Music Awards in November and wanted Dylan and Patricia to attend as her guests. "It's black tie," Angela explained over the phone. "We'll arrange everything: flights, hotel, wardrobe. Reba wants you there. You're important to her." The idea of attending the CMAs seemed surreal, but Patricia was adamant. "We're going. After everything she's done for us, we're absolutely going." October was consumed with preparation. Patricia had taken up sewing again. Her hands were much improved with proper medication, and she made herself a beautiful emerald green dress. Angela arranged for Dylan to get a tailored suit from a local menswear shop. "This is the nicest thing I've ever worn," Dylan said, looking at himself in the mirror. The suit was charcoal gray with a crisp white shirt and burgundy tie. "You look handsome, honey," Patricia said, tears in her eyes. So grown up. The CMAs were held at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, the same venue where Dylan had attended Reba's concert almost a year ago. But this time, they entered through the VIP entrance, with security escorts and backstage passes. The arena was transformed for the awards show. Elegant decor, camera crews everywhere, celebrities in stunning outfits. Dylan recognized faces from television and magazines, other country stars, actors, musicians. And there, in the middle of it all, was Reba, wearing a gorgeous red gown that sparkled under the lights. "You made it!" She hugged them both. "Oh, Patricia, that dress is stunning. Did you make it?" "I did. It's been years since I sewed anything this complex, but I wanted to look nice for your big night. You look absolutely beautiful." They were seated in the third row, near the front. The show was a spectacle of performances, acceptance speeches, and musical numbers. Reba was nominated for Female Vocalist of the Year and Album of the Year. When her category was announced, Dylan held his breath. The presenter opened the envelope. And the winner is Reba McEntire. The arena erupted. Reba made her way to the stage, gracious and elegant. When she reached the microphone, she held up the Crystal Award and smiled. "Thank you so much for this honor. I've been blessed to do what I love for over 40 years, and every award, every achievement, reminds me how lucky I am." She paused, scanning the audience until her eyes landed on Dylan and Patricia. "But this past year taught me something important. Success isn't measured by awards or album sales. It's measured by the lives we touch and the difference we make." She told the story, condensed for television, but still powerful. The boy asking for expired cake. The encounter that changed her perspective. The journey of helping a family in crisis. "Dylan Carter and his grandmother Patricia are here tonight," Reba continued, "and I want them to know, you didn't just let me help you. You helped me remember what matters. You reminded me that kindness is the most important currency we have. Thank you for that gift." The camera found them in the audience. Patricia dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Dylan sat frozen, overwhelmed by the moment. The show continued, but Dylan barely remembered the rest. Afterward, at the exclusive after-party, he found himself surrounded by celebrities who wanted to hear his story, to shake his hand, to tell him he was inspiring. "Your grandmother raised a good man," one famous singer told Patricia. "Thank you. But he did most of the raising himself," Patricia replied. Near midnight, as the party wound down, Dylan found himself on a balcony overlooking downtown Nashville. The city lights twinkled like stars, and somewhere out there was the bakery where everything had changed. Reba joined him, her award in hand. "Big night, huh?" That's an understatement. You know what's funny? I've won dozens of awards, but this one feels special because I got to share it with people I care about. She set the trophy on the balcony railing. Dylan, I want to ask you something. What do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot. Maybe a writer, or maybe a teacher. Someone who helps people like you helped us. Those are both wonderful goals. But whatever you choose, promise me you'll remember this. Your circumstances don't define you. Your choices do. You've been through hardship, but you didn't let it make you hard. That's rare and precious. I learned that from you. No, honey, you already had it in you. I just helped you see it. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city breathe below them. Ms. McEntire? Dylan said quietly. Thank you for everything, for caring when you didn't have to, for changing our lives. Dylan, you changed my life too. You reminded me why I started making music in the first place. To tell stories that matter, to connect with real people facing real struggles. That's a gift I'll never forget. December brought Dylan's 14th birthday and the one-year anniversary of that fateful encounter at Anderson's Bakery. Jennifer Caldwell invited them back for a small celebration. I'm closing early today, she said when they arrived. This day deserves to be marked. She'd made a cake, vanilla with buttercream frosting, decorated with blue and yellow flowers, exactly like the one from a year ago. But this time, it said Happy Anniversary instead of Happy Birthday. To new beginnings, Jennifer toasted with apple cider. And to the kindness that changed everything. Pow! That evening, Dylan sat at the desk in his bedroom at Meadowbrook Gardens, staring at his laptop screen. He'd been writing his story. All of it. From the moment his mother died to this present moment. Not as fiction, but as memoir. He'd titled it, The Boy Who Asked for Cake. The story was almost finished. He just needed to find the right ending. He thought about everything that had happened. His grandmother's recovery, the new apartment, the end of bullying at school, the friendships he'd formed, the opportunities that had opened up, his acceptance into a prestigious high school writing program, the college fund waiting for him, all because of one encounter, one moment of vulnerability in a bakery when he'd asked for expired cake. Dylan typed the final words. People ask me if I believe in miracles. I do, but maybe not the kind you're thinking of. I don't believe in magic or divine intervention or fate. I believe in people. I believe in the miracle of human kindness. The choice to see someone suffering and respond with compassion rather than judgment. Reba McEntire didn't have to stop and talk to a poor kid in a bakery. She could have bought her cookies and left. But she chose to care. And that choice created a ripple effect that changed my entire life. I'm not special. My story isn't unique. There are thousands, maybe millions of kids like me out there right now, struggling, scared, invisible. They need someone to see them, to care about them, to offer help without judgment. If you're reading this and you have the means to help someone, do it. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect cause. Just act. Show kindness. Offer dignity. Recognize the humanity in every person you meet. And if you're reading this and you're struggling like I was, know this. You are not alone. Your circumstances are not permanent. Help exists, even if you haven't found it yet. Keep asking. Keep hoping. Keep believing that tomorrow can be better than today. Because sometimes, all it takes is one person who cares. One person who chooses kindness over indifference. One moment that changes everything. I asked for expired cake, and I received so much more. I received hope, dignity, and a future I never thought possible. That's the real miracle. Dylan saved the document and closed his laptop. Through his bedroom window, he could see downtown Nashville in the distance, the same view that had captivated him the night they moved into this apartment. A year ago, he'd been hopeless, hungry, and alone. Now he was fed, housed, educated, and surrounded by people who cared about him. The transformation was almost unbelievable. There was a soft knock on his door. "Dylan, it's getting late, honey." Patricia's voice was warm and healthy, no longer strained with the effort of breathing. "Coming, Grandma." He found her in the living room, working on a sewing project. She'd started taking commissions again, a small business that brought in extra income and filled her with purpose. Their apartment was cozy now, decorated with photographs from the tour, mementos from their journey. "I finished my story," Dylan told her. "The one about us, about this past year." "How does it end?" Dylan thought about it. "It doesn't, really. Our story's still being written. But I think that's the point. Every ending is just a new beginning." Patricia smiled. "Your mother would be so proud of you. I wish she could see the man you're becoming." "Maybe she can. Maybe somewhere she knows." They sat together in comfortable silence, the television playing softly in the background. Outside, the first snow of December began to fall, covering Nashville in white. Dylan's phone buzzed. A text from Kayla. "Got my report card. All A's. How'd you do?" He replied, "Same. Want to celebrate this weekend?" "Absolutely. My treat. Let's go to that new burger place downtown." Another text came in, this one from Reba. "Thinking about you today. 1 year ago, we met. Look how far you've come. Proud of you, kiddo." Dylan typed back, "Thank you for everything. You changed our lives." Her response was immediate. "You changed mine, too." That's how kindness works. It flows both ways. "See you at Christmas?" Wouldn't miss it. Christmas at Reba's estate had become a tradition. This year, the gathering was even larger. Reba's extended family, Angela and James, the Richardson family, Mrs. Kowalski, even Jennifer from the bakery. They'd all become connected through that one encounter, woven together by shared experience and mutual care. As Dylan stood in Reba's living room, surrounded by laughter and warmth, watching his grandmother help Mrs. Kowalski with a sewing project, seeing Kayla argue playfully with Mason about board game rules, observing Dr. Richardson and James discussing legal reforms in healthcare, he felt overwhelming gratitude. This was his family now, not bound by blood, but by something stronger, the choice to care for one another. "What are you thinking about?" Reba appeared beside him, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. How different everything is from last year. How one moment changed everything. Moments do that sometimes. The question is, what are you going to do with this new life you've been given? Dylan took the hot chocolate, letting the warmth seep into his hands. "I'm going to pay it forward. When I'm older, when I have the means, I want to help kids like me, kids who are struggling and invisible. I want to be someone's Reba McEntire." She smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "That's the best answer you could have given. The world needs more people who understand what it's like to struggle and choose to help others, rather than forget where they came from." I'll never forget. How could I? Some people do. They get comfortable and stop seeing the suffering around them. Promise me you'll always see it, always care. I promise. As the evening continued, Dylan found himself thinking about the future. High school in the fall, college after that, a career helping others, a life built on the foundation of kindness that Reba had shown him. The journey from that cold December afternoon in the bakery to this warm Christmas celebration had been transformative. He'd gone from invisible to visible, from hopeless to hopeful, from alone to surrounded by love. And it had all started with a simple question: do you have any expired cake? Later that night, as Patricia and Dylan drove back to their apartment in the reliable used car that Reba had helped them purchase, Patricia turned to him. "Are you happy, honey?" Dylan didn't hesitate. "Yeah, Grandma, I really am." "Me too. For the first time in years, I'm truly happy." She reached over and squeezed his hand. "We're going to be okay. Better than okay. I know. We're going to be great." They drove through the Nashville night, snow falling gently, Christmas lights twinkling in windows, the city alive with possibility. Dylan Carter, who had once asked for expired cake just to survive, now had a future full of promise. He had health, security, education, friendship, and love. He had people who believed in him and a purpose that drove him forward. And most importantly, he had learned the most valuable lesson life could teach: that kindness matters, that people matter, and that sometimes the smallest act of compassion can change everything. As they pulled into the parking lot at Meadowbrook Gardens, Dylan looked up at their apartment window, glowing warm in the December darkness. Home, real home, with heat and food and safety and love. "Thank you, Ms. McEntire," he whispered to the night, "for seeing me, for caring, for changing everything." And somewhere across Nashville, in her beautiful estate surrounded by family, Reba McEntire smiled, as if she'd heard him. Because the best stories don't have neat, tidy endings. They have continuations. They have ripple effects that spread outward, touching lives in ways we can't always predict or measure. Dylan's story wasn't over. It was just beginning. And that, perhaps, was the most beautiful part of all.